effect of a Mystic Ally. They don't do a lot of damage, but it's like a tank. It keeps things away from you. They focus on it, attacking it, which is a plus. But the big thing here is we're using the Air Ally rune. Passively, and the Mystic Ally fights by your side, that increases your spirit generation by 4. So there's more spirit regeneration. If you activate this Mystic Ally ability, which you don't really need to because they're always there. See, they always appear as reborn 5 seconds later, so you never have to summon them again. But you can activate the ability to instantly gain 100 spirit. So that's a big one there. That's like your big, oh, I'm out of spirit. Wham, here's 100 extra spirit. And the cooldown on that's not too bad. Now, the cool thing about Mystic Ally is another piece of gear that we'll look at, where we're getting 2 Mystic Allies. And I believe I've did some focus on that, and we are getting 2 spirits, so we're getting 8 spirit generation from those 2 allies, which is awesome. Then the last ability we're using is the Mantra of Salvation. Passively, you and your allies gain within 60 yards gain 20% increase to resist all. If I activate it, me and my allies gain an additional 20% increase resist all. So this is a survival ability. Some people early on have been using Conviction to increase their damage. But I'm at the point where I need that survivability so I can survive these high-end greater rifts and stuff. I use the rune Wind Through the Reeds, increases your movement speed by 10% when it's active, which should be all the time. I think somebody was using Agility to help, for defense, increasing dodge again by 35%. I'm not sure if that's is a multiplicative with that 40% ability. The passive skills we use is Harmony. 40% of your single elemental resistances from items instead increases your resistance to all elements. I haven't focused my gear on that. Something I'll need to pay attention to now that we're getting to the point to where we are trying to survive the higher end greater rifts. And this, mind you, this character is on normal since the season's currently closed until next Thursday. I was able to level this guy up within a couple hours using a Orb of Ease. So he went from like level 1 to 70 in a few hours. And then just going and finding these pieces. There's not a lot of time played on this character, so there's a lot of fine-tuning left that needs to be done, especially in the case of resistances. The second passive I use is a Beacon of Yatar. Reduces all cooldowns by 20%. That's key for Epiphany, the Mystic Ally, when I need to get some spirit back. Exalted Soul, increase maximum spirit by 50, and increase spirit regeneration by 4, so that's another fuel for getting my spirit up. And then I recently changed to near-death experience, but the amount of damage and how fast I am taking it, I hardly ever see it actually proccing and helping me survive. So I'm thinking of taking this and going back to, I was using Momentum. Moving 25 yards increases your damage by 20% for 6 seconds. So, right after I do a Dashing Strike, this should proc and increase all my damages by 20%. I think we'll do that now. Or we can increase our movement again by 10% there. But do that. Alright, so gear to go with that ability. We're using, obviously this build is based on Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong set obviously is a 6-piece set. And what we're looking at is a 2-piece. Your damage taken is reduced by 50% while Sweeping Wind is active, which should be all the time. So you want to keep your Sweeping Wind up. And the way it goes away, because with this belt, it should be up all the time. Sweeping Wind gains 2 stacks every second. It does not deal damage to an enemy. So you move away, and this thing will add 2 stacks every second to your belt, to your Sweeping Winds, back up to 3. This reduces the damage you take by 50% while Sweeping Wind is active. So you got to keep that Sweeping Wind up because it's a defense. as well as a key to the next stage of this ability. It's a 4-piece set. Every second, Sweeping Wind spawns a decoy next to the last enemy you hit that taunts nearby enemies and then explodes for 500% weapon damage for each stack of Sweeping Wind you have. Now, this one isn't a big key for this build. It's somewhat helpful, but there's another build that is, I think, is far inferior that you actually need to do if you want to do the Sunwuko set dungeon, because it flips you around and you're basing your build on Sweeping Wind and that drone rather than Wave of Light. It's more of controlling the mobs, doing the damage in specifics, controlled explosions, rather than just mashing and hitting it and destroying everything with the Wave of Light. That made the Sunwuko set dungeon a little difficult for me, but after several tries and switching around some abilities, I got it done. So the set 4 one I'm not too worried about. I don't think it's key to this build, but the 6 set piece ability is Lashing Tail Kick, Tempest Rush, and Wave of Light. Consume a stack of Sweeping Wind to deal 1500% increased damage. So every time you're casting that Wave of Light, it's going to consume a stack of Sweeping Wind. But as long as Sweeping Wind isn't damaging opponents, not you damaging opponents, as long as Sweeping Wind is doing no damage, which is why you want to try to keep a distance away from your enemies, then it will get 2 stacks every second. So you want to stay far enough away that Sweeping Wind isn't doing damage, but your Wave of Light is doing all the damage. And this belt is getting your stacks back up. So now you're constantly going to be doing 1500 damage with these explosions. 1500 more damage with those explosions. Yeah, it's increased by 1500%. Whoa. So that's the big key to this build, is that 6-piece stack on that damage. Keeping that Sweeping Wind up just to feed the Wave of Light, not necessarily to use the Sweeping Wind to damage targets. Alright, so that's the basic of this set, or of this build. What else can we do to help that along? Well, we've already talked about the belt that adds 2 stacks of Sweeping Wind every second. Look at some other abilities that we're using. The helm, we're using Zokrin's Gaze. Wave of Light is now cast at your enemy. So now, instead of that waving light, which normally is centered on you all the time, this helm lets us cast it away from us, which is another key ability, because now we're not getting close to enemies to get hit with that Sweeping Wind, so it is rebuilding as we're using ranged Wave of Lights. The weapon I'm using, Incense Torch of the Grand Temple, reduces the spirit cost of Wave of Light by 43%. So that's big on my spirit costs. Early on, I was using Restraint and Focus for a 50% bonus, but it would be better with a Unity for survivability to work with the other players, or your minion, I suppose. I still need to work on him, because I need to get an artifact for him that's the one that says he doesn't die. Because then that works amazing with Unity. I've already got a Unity ring for him as well when we get to that point. Whether the Knight is really the right companion for soloing, I think so, because of his tanking ability, keeping mobs away from you, and then focusing on him. But right now at high end, he's kind of useless because he dies right away. So these guys make up for it, the Mystic Allies. But still, to make this a peak solo farming, I need to get him the no-die artifact, and I also need to get him some better gear, because I haven't even really looked at him at all. Look, he's still got level 46 gear. Shit. What else? So the rings I replaced instead of a Unity, and the Convention of Elements to get that elemental bonus damage. The gems I use, there is the Bane of the Stricken, Each attack you make against an enemy increases the damage it takes by 1%. However, things die in 1 or 2 explosions. So that ability doesn't really mean much, but the level 25 ranked gem ability is where I get my benefit from this one. Gain 25% increased damage against bosses and Rift Guardians. So the main ability on this gem is suck, it's ass for this build, but that that rank 25 gem ability is what is key. Over here, I've got Zai's Stone of Vengeance. Damage you deal is increased by 5.5% for every 10 yards between you and the enemy hit, up to a maximum of 27.5% increase, and that's currently at rank 50, or rank 30. The rank 25 ability is 20% chance on hit to stun the enemy for 1 second. So that's why I'm trying to cast my Wave of Light on the edge of the screen as monsters appear. Gives me the maximum range of abilities. That explosion at the edge of the screen is going out beyond the edge of the screen, so I'm hitting mobs even off the screen. So I'm getting the most effect, that 27.5%, when I'm doing that. Now this other gem has been questionable. Bane of the Trapped. Increased damage against enemies under the effects of control impairing effects by 23.7%. I'm kind of iffy whether the stun effect is considered a movement effect. It's a control impairing effect, I would assume. But there's a 20% chance of it proccing off here and allowing this to work to increase the damage done. I also gain an aura that reduces the movement speed of enemies within 15 yards by 30%. But this build, I don't want monsters around me. I want them at a distance. So I still think this gem is questionable. But if I do manage to get mobs around me, that means I will have a 23.7% damage increase, which almost balances out to the range damage increase. So I'm getting at least a 23% bonus in damage, no matter where the monsters are on the screen, between those two gems. So I guess it kind of balances out. Alright, so let's go look at the Can I Cube, what I'm using. Okay, weapon-wise, I'm using a Kishiro's Blade. Increases the damage of Wave of Light by 150%. When the initial impact of Wave of Light hits 3 or fewer enemies, the damage is increased by 250%. So this is almost a key ability you need for this build, because it just multiplicatively adds to the Wave of Light damage. It takes it beyond an ungodly range. To help with mana, I reduce the resource cost of fire skills by 30%. Since we're using Wave of Light Explosive Rune, that makes it fire. So that's going to reduce my costs even further, along with that ability I was using. And then, of course, I'm using a Ring of Grandeur. Since I'm not using the headpiece for the Sun Wukong set, I've only got 5 pieces. So this Ring of Grandeur ability gives me the 6-piece bonus. So that's key. Because you want that headset, or that headpiece, to be able to cast Wave of Light at a distance. But then to get the 6-piece, since you're not using the headgear for Sun Wukong, you need the Ring of Grandeur. That is, well, that's not completely it. Right now, there is one more piece, an item that we're working on. The Warschekian arm guards help me with movement. When you destroy something, you get a short burst of speed. But the key item we really want, called Pinto's Pride. What Pinto's Pride does... Wave of Light also slows enemies by 80% for 3 seconds and deals an additional 125 to 150% increased damage. So what makes that, other than slowing them down at range, you think, oh, that doesn't really mean much. It does some increased damage as well. But that does mean a lot. That makes this gem come into play much more effectively. Because now, at range, I'm slowing monsters down, making this gem proc and doing 23% more damage to them, on top of the 27% damage that this one's doing. So we're like multiplying on multiplying on multiplying damage for Wave of Light. So that's why that Pinto's Pride Bracer is something we need to find tonight. This is the last piece that we need to bring this together. In which case, we'll be down to replacing